So let's start with our today's session. In today's session, I am going to focus upon basically different types of benefits that are provided. The focus would be on benefit provision. So in SP4, how we are going to study is that we should study topic wise, because question comes from a particular topic. Question does not target a particular chapter. Chapter wise studies are till CT series. Once you are out of your CT series, you have to focus on the topic wise studies. So basically the entire chapter 4, 5, 6 we are going to continue for the next 3-4 classes at least. So let's talk about benefit provision, scheme designs that should be taken into consideration in general. So first of all, we need to understand that who provides benefits to individuals. We can have state providing benefits, we can have employer providing benefits. We discussed this in last session also. Then we can have self provision by individuals also. And when we are designing a package of benefits and when it is getting decided who will provide benefits to individuals, there are different decisions that are taken into consideration. Decisions can be what the level of benefit we have to provide, and is the benefit fixed or is it in real terms, on which events the benefits need to be provided. Is it to be provided on death or on retirement, or we are providing benefits on leaving employment, and the form of benefits is exactly what. Is it an annuity benefit or we are providing cash lump sum? How is the approach different between individuals in the group? What is the level of benefit that you are getting? Which stakeholder are impacted by your benefit provision? Are we attaching any guarantees to our benefit? So whenever there is a question on benefit design, whenever there is a question on asking on different factors, you should first check who is providing benefits, to whom the benefit is getting provided, is there any target level of benefits, what is the level of benefits to be provided, what is the form of benefit, is it in cash lump sum or is it in annuity form, who is financing the benefits, and are we imposing any eligibility criteria while providing the benefits? Okay. So for example, when the state is providing the benefits, state can impose some means testing ways to provide benefits, and for example it can impose some restriction in terms of minimum years that a contribution needs to be made, it can impose restriction in terms of residency. So different needs are met taking into consideration different scheme designs. So whenever we are designing a particular benefit scheme, we have to take into consideration multiple factors. So first factor while designing, in general the first factor that needs to be taken is the membership profile of the scheme. So in membership profile, we should check on the characteristics of member. How exactly my membership profile is segregated. Do we have young members in our scheme, or we have old members? Male versus female, married versus single, high pay versus low pay, ill versus healthy. Do we have members of short service or do we have members of long service, and is it working population or retired population? Members are with dependents or without dependents? Are they risk takers or they are risk averse? Full-time workers are covered or part-time workers are covered? Do we have employment categories in terms directors or sales force? So whenever you are designing the benefit and whenever we are asked to comment on the membership profile, so when we are supposed to comment on the membership profile, we should check for all the different categories and this can be your age, this can be gender, ill health versus healthy, then we have high pay versus low pay, full-time versus part-time, do we have directors versus sales force? So like this, multiple characteristics of the scheme need to be considered when you are providing the benefits, and this is one of the important factors to be taken while providing the benefits. Now Once we have decided on that who is providing the benefits, who is financing the benefits, and while designing the benefit scheme, we have checked on the membership profile of the scheme. Let's now understand the type of benefit schemes. So the first type of benefit scheme, DB schemes, or we say it as defined benefit schemes. As the definition says, benefits are defined in advance. We have scheme rules which will define your benefits. Now, you are paying contributions to the scheme, your benefits are not related to the contributions paid into the scheme, benefits are not related to the investments of the scheme. Benefit can be designed in terms, it can be a fixed benefit related to period of employment, or we can have benefit which is linked to a formula. For example, the benefit can be 3/20 into final pensionable salary into number of years of service. So, benefits defined in advance means that benefits have to be defined. Either it can be a fixed benefit or it can be defined in terms of a fixed formula. Now, when we have a benefit formula which is designed like this, for example, accrual rate multiplied by final salary multiplied by number of years of service. So, what we are doing in final salary? We are basically, it's a type of scheme. We say this type of scheme where the benefits are linked with like this particular formula. We say this type of scheme as final salary scheme. There's a scheme where benefit is actually reflecting employee's final salary. It is reflecting employee's service with an employer, that is your final salary scheme. Now, definition of this final pensionable salary will be different depending upon the scheme. It can be your last 3 years salary, last 5 years salary. Sometimes we have benefits being defined in terms of career average scheme. So, for example, if it is accrual rate multiplied by entire career average salary into number of years of service. So, if this final salary is basically linked to infinity, it can become your career average salary. So, career average means you are taking out the average of the entire years in which you have worked. And we can have revalued career average also, because when we are taking career average, we are not revaluing it, we are not indexing it with respect to inflation every year. But if you are taking revalued career average, so it's a career average scheme, but each year's salary is actually revalued with respect to current date to allow for the effects of indexation. So, that will become your revalued career average scheme. So, be it any revalued career average scheme, be it your career average scheme, be it final salary scheme, in all these things we are seeing one thing common, that is it's a DB scheme. So, in DB scheme you are paying benefits to a scheme, but you are paying contributions to a scheme, but your benefits are not linked to contributions, your benefits are not linked to investments. So, members may be required to contribute towards the cost of their DB provision. Contribution can be fixed, contribution may not be fixed. Contribution can be a fixed rate as well, contribution can be a percentage of salary as well, contribution can be a fixed percentage of salary, contribution can be increasing percentage of salary also. So, if state is providing benefit, DB benefit, it can be flat rate basic pension, it can be a flat rate basic pension plus some allowance for inflation also into that. So, when your benefit is fixed, but your contribution into the scheme are not fixed, that is an example of your DB scheme. Then we have is DC scheme, or we say it as defined contribution. In these type of schemes, my benefit is not known in advance. Which level of benefit you will be getting will actually depend on your contributions into the scheme. It will depend on the investment return that you are earning on those contributions. It will depend on the term on which the fund is basically converted. So, when we are setting the contribution rate for a DC scheme, we are basically setting fixed contribution. Now, this contribution can be at a fixed rate, or it can be a fixed percentage of salary. It has to be basically defined. So contribution can be a fixed rate for all members, contribution can be age related, contribution can be service related. Maybe we can have older or longer serving members paying higher contributions to reflect higher cost of benefit accrual with age and service. So in DC scheme, your investments play an important role in deciding the level of benefits. So this is one of the most important feature of DC scheme is that the members who are actually a part of the scheme, they take on the investment risk because the level of benefits is dependent on investments paid into the scheme. So the investment risk is borne by the member. They have this flexibility, they have this control with themselves with respect to the way in which their funds are invested. So member has complete control with respect to the investment. They may require some financial advice, sponsor can give them financial advice, sponsor can give them different options to invest. Then it comes to option of lifestyling, we will do in later chapters, where we will guide the member that in your initial years you can keep your investments in equities in order to enhance return, and once you are near to retirement you can move to bonds. This is known as lifestyling approach. Clear? So the type of scheme is dependent on whether the contribution is defined or benefit is defined. So DC schemes are more flexible because member can choose what to do with accumulated fund at retirement. You can take it as a cash, maybe you can purchase an annuity from insurance company from that particular amount which is accumulated. You can purchase an annuity within the scheme only. You can decide whether dependent benefits will be provided or not. You can draw down an income stream that whatever you have accumulated that will be remaining as a fund, and we can go for income drawdown approach in which we will keep on drawing a particular level of income every year until a limit number of years allowed, and after that then whatever the fund is left it will be transferred to dependents. But there can be legislative restrictions with respect to an amount drawdown each year, age where drawdown has to cease and annuity must be purchased. So this is very common in DC schemes that members can go for income drawdown approach. So one of the major benefit of this income drawdown approach is that till a particular number of years you have this flexibility that you can withdraw a particular amount each year subject to minimum and maximum restrictions, and once you reach that particular age your income drawdown has to cease and your whatever fund is there at that point, your annuity has to start at that particular point. So if you have died at that point, the fund will be transferred to dependents, and there is no fixed level of benefit. We have defined your income in terms of minimum and maximum drawdown that can happen. So if fixed income is taken, maybe it works like same as fixed annuity. But if you have some flexibility, so when you are in need of more amount you can withdraw more, when in need of less amount you can withdraw less, and your members dependents can inherit the balance of the fund. So that's one of the major advantage of going for income drawdown. So if we give you an option whether it will be better for you to choose income drawdown or go for immediately purchasing an annuity at retirement, which option will you choose? See, a member would be better taking income drawdown approach if they have dependents to whom they can pass on those excess funds. If annuity rates are currently poor, so it's better ki as of now let me go for income drawdown, and once the annuity rates improve in future, I will start the annuity at my cease rate, cease time which is decided. So if you have dependents and if you are expecting that you will live a short time in retirement, why to go for annuity? At least your funds can be transferred to dependents. So there are a lot of factors which members decide whether to go for income drawdown or to approach annuity, whether to purchase annuity within the scheme or to purchase annuity outside the scheme, or to take cash lump sum. If you are taking cash lump sum, that means you are taking longevity and investment risk on your part only. Then we have third type of scheme, which is hybrid scheme. Now what happens in hybrid scheme? It basically combines features of DB and DC's provision. Social risk is shared between employers, between members, between different organizations. That becomes your hybrid scheme. So one of the major example of hybrid scheme is maybe it's a DC scheme but with guaranteed benefits. That becomes hybrid scheme. A DB scheme allowing for cash withdrawal, cash lump sum to be taken. Cash balance scheme, defined lump sum is provided at retirement. So all your post retirement risk are transferred from employer to member. DB scheme, but you have option to convert to DC if your member is leaving the scheme. All these are basically hybrid schemes where we have mixed features of both DB as well as DC. If in DC we are attaching some benefit underpin, that is hybrid. If in DB we are attaching some DC underpin, whenever there are any guarantees in terms of contributions, whenever we are passing on the risk, be it pre-retirement risk, be it post-retirement risk, a certain proportion of risk is transferred to another stakeholder, that becomes hybrid. Okay. Now let's do one or two questions so that you can be more clear with respect to the working of DB and DC schemes, and then we will move to next set of topics. Okay, so let's discuss the first question of the day. Question says, senior management of an investment bank are setting up a new defined contribution scheme for new employees instead of current defined benefit pension scheme. So for 8 marks, question is asking you, set out the various design issues they should consider. So senior management of an investment bank are setting up a new DC scheme for new employees instead of current defined benefit pension scheme. Set out the various design issues they should consider. So it's a 8 marks question, but since it involves setting out only, so no detailed description required. 7 to 8 minutes time, start attempting. Five to 7 minutes time for this question. focus only on specific design factors that need to be taken into consideration. Don't give me any general points. Two to three more minutes to wrap up. Even if you give me certain keywords, that will also work. Give a framework to your points, because presentation is something which is utmost required. Okay, let's discuss now. Senior management of an investment bank are setting up a new DC scheme for new employees instead of current defined benefit pension scheme. Set out the various design issues they should consider. So basically now the senior management is setting up new DC scheme instead of for their new employees instead of current defined benefit scheme. So what are the design issues they should consider? So first of all, they have to consider what is the purpose of this moving. We need to cut costs and we need to provide more flexible benefits to our employees. So purpose is reduce costs and provide more flexible benefits to employees. Now what are the various design issues they should consider? First of all, they have to make sure that it should be consistent with existing DB scheme. It should be consistent with existing DB scheme, and we need to check on the level of benefit to be targeted. We need to check who all are allowed to enter into the scheme. Do we have both temporary and permanent employees? यहाँ पर सिर्फ ये mention है that it is for new employees, but those can be your temporary employee as well. And when are the employees allowed to join? Is there any waiting period in port? Ideally, there should be a waiting period so that we can reduce administration and benefit costs for all those employees who are going to leave the company next 2 to 3 months. So, who all are going to join the scheme? Temporary workers or permanent workers? When workers are going to join? Is there any waiting period? And what about our existing employees? Since we are thinking of the design factors only, think of n number of factors. What about your existing employees? Is this new DC scheme available to existing employees, or do we have any incentives where existing employees will be allowed to join for future service? Now, अब ये DC scheme है, so definitely we should have to consider the age basically at which they wish to set normal retirement. So we need to consider the pension the management wish to target at normal retirement. Is it a dependent pension? Are we allowing for any pension increases? So what's the target level of pension? So for that you need to guide on the age of normal retirement. Target level of pension. Are we allowing for dependents pension? Are we allowing for any pension increases? Since it's a DC scheme, so one factor that has to be taken into consideration is how is your contribution rate set? Is it age related, service related, or a percentage of salary? And अभी जो हमने ऊपर डिस्कस किया था बेसिकली व्हाट इज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ पेंशनेबल सैलरी? इज इट योर लास्ट 3 years सैलरी, लास्ट 5 years सैलरी, और करियर एवरेज सैलरी? Or there can be multiple other factors as well, which even I mean, since it's just for 8 marks and there are multiple things that we can mention, we can also mention, are we attaching any underpin to be offered along with these DC scheme? What are the different investment choices that we are providing to members, and what's the option of annuity that you are providing? What is the level and form of protection benefits to be offered at the time of death? If the value of benefit exceeds DC account, how will the cost will be met? How is expenses going to be met? If members are going to meet the expenses, or we have employer meeting the expenses? Now if investors don't, so if members don't know that which particular option to choose, do we have any default option available for them, do we have any guidance available to them? We always, whenever a DC scheme question come, always target one factor as level of investments options that they have, plus any default option that you are providing, along with lifestyling option. As we discussed, the lifestyling option is very important, because basically lifestyling means that we are moving gradually towards bonds and cash as retirement approaches. So which type of bonds to be held, what will be the need mix between bonds and cash, and is lifestyling compulsory for all, or they are going to be opted by the members dependent upon the members' choice. And do we have any restrictions with respect to minimum or maximum contribution rates, minimum or maximum pension benefits? Do we have any restrictions in terms of the permitted level of benefits provided by the state? You need to check on the administration of the scheme, how the details will be disclosed to members. So there are multiple factors that you can mention of. So this is, if this type of question comes in your exam, you can score very well. In fact, you can score 8 out of 8, because we have lot of things to write in this type of question. So Simanti says, aim of employer, if employer wants to reduce costs or want to provide more flexibility. Level of contribution, if contribution will be age based, service related, if employees will have flexibility to change contribution, if employer needs to match employee contribution rate to encourage participation, employer contribution may be capped to a certain limit to reduce the cost of defined benefit provision, employee satisfaction, if DB was contributory, then employee contribution may be justified under DC, otherwise it may lead to employee dissatisfaction, if there are any guaranteed benefit that need to be provided, if under DC scheme, members will be given the flexibility to make investment choice. If employees under DB will be allowed to join DC, if employees who have not participated under DB, can they join under DC? What will be cost implication? Will there be tax benefit on contribution paid by employee and employer? Administrative complexity, who will be our administration cost, particularly if employer has a robust system to support individual investment choices, contribution rates, etc. So perfect answer, Simanti, well attempted. Now let's move to next question. So let's do the question. Question says, an employer wishes to set up a DC scheme to target a pension of 1/100th of each member's salary at age 65 for each year of future service plus other benefits. Contributions are to be invested in a managed fund. For 5 marks, question says, outline the factors to be taken into account in setting appropriate contribution structure for the scheme. So for 5 marks, start attempting. 3 to 4 more minutes. Guys, all those who are taking live should try to frame answer. We are discussing it in group. It should not be only one or two students are answering and the rest are only listening. It's the same as watching videos. If you are taking time and trying to attend it live, just make sure to participate in live discussion. Otherwise, what's the point of taking live? So let's see what the question says. An employer wishes to set up a DC scheme to target a pension of 1/100th of each member's salary at age 65 for each year of future service and other benefits. Contributions are to be invested in a managed fund. Outline the factors to be taken into account in setting appropriate contribution structure for the scheme. This is just similar to the question that we have already done, but we will just revise it a bit, that what are the different factors when you are setting your contribution structure. So the first important thing when we are planning a contribution scheme is that we need to make certain assumptions related to investment return, salary, post retirement mortality. So जब भी contribution structure आपको set करना है, सबसे पहले क्या decide करना है? The level of contribution rate. Is it going to be flat rate? Is it age related? Service related? What will be the level of administrative complexity? Because the more complex the structure, higher will be your administration cost and difficulty will be higher again for the members to understand its operation. If you are setting up a contribution structure, definitely you will have to refer what other competitors are provided. You will have to refer your company's existing arrangement. You have to decide on the level of prudence to be attached to your assumptions. Are we going towards best estimate basis or are we opting for say more prudent basis? Do we have any legislative restrictions with respect to minimum or maximum contributions? Are we attaching any extra benefits along with the retirement benefits? How is the expenses taken into consideration? Does my contribution rate allow for expenses? And who are going to contribute? Do we have only members contributing or both employers and employee contribution? And how are rates going to revise if we are not meeting the target? So whenever we are deciding on the contribution structure, we need to first decide on the different assumptions to be taken. We need to decide on the level of prudence to be attached to different assumptions. We need to decide on the level of contribution rate to be attached. We need to decide the complexity to administration structure, the cost, because it will impact your administration and communication costs. We need to check on the contribution rate structure for competitors as in terms of contribution rate of competitors and our existing scheme. Then we need to check whether there are any minimum or maximum restrictions if we are allowing for expenses, or what if we are allowing for additional benefits. Is my contribution rate compatible with the cost of additional benefits to be provided? So one answer I have received by Simanti says level of contribution, if contribution rate will be fixed or linked to certain percentage of salary. If linked to salary, what's a pensionable definition? If contribution rate will be same for all employees, or it will be age related or service related. If employees will have the change option to change contribution rate. Employer contribution may be matched with employee contribution. Employer contribution may be capped to a certain percentage. Employer contribution need to be set out in such a manner that it remains affordable. Reduction of employer contribution in future may lead to employee dissatisfaction. If target pension is not met, who will bear the additional cost, like employer or employee or both? If employee will have flexibility of investing the funds, as in case of wrong investment choice, excess contribution may need to be provided by employer. Tax implications to be provided on employer and employee contribution rate. So Simanti, what you have done is, instead of focusing on multiple ideas, which is the basic reason that when they are asking you questions on factors, you have just focused a lot on commenting of contribution rate only. So commenting on contribution rate, it has to be affordable, that's okay, but it's like your every point is just linked to that. You have not mentioned anything related to complexity, anything related to administration or extra benefits or expenses. You have not even covered your legislation also, not covered anything related to competitors' contribution rate or with respect to existing arrangement. So even if you are mentioning, on seeing your answer, what is actually thinking that we are actually as an examiner, I am thinking is, okay, student is aware that we can link it to salary or we can link it to age rate, and he or she is just trying to express it in multiple points, the same thing. Okay, we need to take into consideration employer contribution, employee contribution, we are offering flexibility of investing funds. Yahan pe we don't require flexibility of investing funds as a factor to be taken. They are asking you, you are basically setting your contribution structure. You are not setting up a DC scheme. Question is asking you to set a contribution structure, and in order to set contribution structure, we are saying ki okay, first we need to decide on different assumptions, then we will decide is it going to be age related, service related or flat rate, then we will decide what our competitors are giving, what's the current engagement, then we will decide ki okay, even if we are providing this fixed rate, are there any minimum or maximum restriction, and what if our review rate is wrong, do we have any option of review? These things should come into your mind. It's not asking you to revise your DC scheme factors. What you have mentioned is, I mean, it seems like as if for a 15 marks a question comes to comment on DC scheme, then you can write on these points. But currently your answer is too concentrated in just one direction. It has to be more diversified. Now let's do one more question. Basically, we have just discussed DB and DC scheme only in today's session. I have not discussed anything else other than this, and we are doing some questions related to that only. An employer has decided to wind up its DB pension scheme. Instead, it will contribute to DC arrangement. Discuss the death in service benefits that should be provided in future. An employer has decided to wind up its DB pension scheme. Instead, it will contribute to DC arrangement. Discuss the death in service benefits that should be provided in future. 4 marks. Three to 4 minutes time to wrap up. Last question of the day. Employer has decided to wind up its DB pension scheme. Instead, it will contribute to DC arrangement. So now employer is saying that I will be wrapping up DB and we will be moving to DC. So discuss the death in service benefits that should be provided in future. Now what will be the level of death in service? For example, if death happens even though they are contributing into the policy, what will be the level of benefits that will be provided? So one option is that we can just provide the value of members fund at the time of death. This is your one option. Or what else we can do is, instead of providing whatever is the value of members fund, we can simply provide a lump sum benefit. Another option is lump sum. When you are providing this lump sum, it can either be higher compared to whatever you have accumulated or lower. But reduction will definitely not be acceptable because it's a major event that we have a death in service. So reduction would definitely be unpopular. So we have to maintain or increase the benefit in order to make individuals appreciate the level of benefits. So lump sum benefit, and that too increased or maintained in order to appreciate the level of benefits. Or what else we can do is, instead of providing any lump sum benefit or providing them the value of members benefits, if we see that we have dependents, we can provide maybe a dependent pension. This is another option. Or if you don't want to provide dependent pension in order to remove longevity risk, we can provide higher lump sum instead of dependent pension. This is another option. And this, or if you are providing pension benefit, it can be based on your salary, so that we can have a good cover for younger members. So different level of lump sum basically can be provided to different categories of membership depending on whether they have dependents, depending on their marital status. Dependent on marital status, dependent on number of dependents. So you can either provide a fixed pension benefit, you can provide lump sum benefit, you can provide value of members fund. If you are providing lump sum benefit, you need to make sure that you are maintaining or you are providing at increased level. Or you can provide dependents pension, or instead of providing dependent pension, we can provide high lump sum. So in short, we are saying that different lump sum can be provided to different categories of membership. So this is what they were asking you in this type of question. So question was straightforward, that now employer has basically decided to wind up DC and move to DC. So when they are winding up DB, moving to DC, definitely there will be a change in the level of benefits. And you need to comment on the different ways in which benefits can be provided at the time of death. We can provide a fixed lump sum, we can provide pension benefit, we can provide dependent pension benefit, we can provide higher lump sum in case they have more dependents, just to show, make sure that paternalistic feeling is maintained. We can not reduce the level of benefits to be provided, because other than if you are reducing the level of benefits, beneficiaries will not be appreciative of the benefits. So in today's session, we have just discussed general features to be taken when we are setting up DB or DC scheme. We have in general discussed about DB and DC scheme. There are multiple other things to be discussed in benefit provision. We will continue with same set of topic for our next session. So that's it for the day from my side. Thank you.